Hi, you're tuned into Vibe FM with me, Amanda Clinton. Join me every weekday from 5:30 a.m. to 6 a.m. on my programme, Our Father's House. I look forward to taking you to work with inspirational messages and, of course, the Word of God. Welcome to a live edition of Our Father's House right here at Vibe Studios. On today's show, I'm essentially going to be talking about Genesis chapter 3, where the Bible states that God is a spirit and we should worship him in spirit and in truth. Quite an interesting statement to me, because it identifies the fact that, God doesn't have a form, he doesn't have a physical form, and he's essentially a spirit that we should worship in spirit and in truth. And when one goes to Genesis, it states that we were created in God's image. So therefore, despite being physical, we were created in God's image in terms of being spiritual beings that should at least aspire to worship God in spirit and in truth. In fact, I even write in my book, How I Sold My Soul, a book about a man's spiritual journey, about man's carnal nature, and in fact his nature to do everything that is not as spiritual as intended. You see, for man, forming groups, gangs and clubs based on sex, race, colour and even ideology is a human trait to feel better about oneself or one's group. The art of excluding others, as they say, in order to feel more intelligent, enlightened and or superior. Essentially striving therefore for acknowledgement and validation from others around you or from society in general. So from the Illuminati to street gangs on the street of Cairo, London and New York. No matter how you dress it up or how people speak, because of their backgrounds and their education, or how they in turn express themselves with power moves, they are all essentially striving for that sense of validation within the group and or within society. It's about whether you respect them. If you don't, then you've caused something that has inspired every war, argument and fight known to mankind. You've offended them. To be feared or praised, or as in most cases both, is what forming these groups to some level achieves. In saying all that, it goes very far away from the initial idea that I proposed, which is written in the Bible, that God is a spirit and we should worship him in spirit and in truth, because, it shows that we are everything carnal, everything based on ego, everything based on feeding our own flesh. But ultimately, someone who's a lawyer, the greatest strength to be a lawyer apparently is that one should be a great negotiator, and a great negotiator in life. So in whatever circumstance you find yourself in, you have to negotiate. And it dawned on me the other day as I was talking to my sister that in playing this whole religious game, religious cards, and trying to get to know one's God more, what we essentially do, if we break it all down, if we break everything down, is to negotiate our way into heaven, because ultimately we have to build up enough spiritual currency to last this time, in terms of this lifetime and the afterlife. So if you're the sort of person that's going around negotiating on how best you can perform your physical power moves for the next 40, 50, 60 years, and you don't in fact build enough spiritual currency, to me you're practically the worst negotiator in the world, because ultimately one should be negotiating how they're going to survive this experience on earth and in heaven by building up enough spiritual currency. Because what's going to happen to you if you get to eternity and then you have nobody in order to work out your power moves with, and no spiritual currency, and therefore you reside somewhere else, which is otherwise known as hell. So essentially what I'm saying is that if one breaks down religion, spirituality, God, the Bible, everything, what we're essentially trying to do in sowing into this system is to build up enough spiritual currency that we can use in this world in terms of eternal peace here, and peace when our body dies and we move on. So if you don't believe in God, don't believe in Jesus, don't believe, you're actually listening to a Christian show, which this essentially is, at least believe the fact that you are a soul that is eternal, and a soul that needs to build up enough spiritual currency in order to last this time and the next. Therefore, I really hope that you've enjoyed listening to me, and that you'll carry on listening to me. And I really, do want to impress on the fact that if you think you're the greatest negotiator in the world, then why don't you try and be the greatest negotiator in the universe in terms of building enough spiritual currency so your soul lasts this lifetime and the next? Because ultimately, what does it benefit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his soul? So you've been listening to live broadcast with me, Amanda Clinton, here at 5FM. I hope you keep on listening to my broadcasts, which air from 5:45 to 6 a.m. from Monday to Friday, as well as during the week on an ad hoc basis. I hope you have a fantastic morning and that you are truly blessed today.
We're the best